I'd like to welcome all of you to the 34th Beautification Commission Awards ceremony. I'm Carol Kurth, one of the commissioners, and you'll find that the list of other commissioners in your program. I have Kathy Brown. I'm doing this alphabetically. They are going to stand, and Kathy's in the back waving. Jennifer Chin, our chairperson. She's here somewhere. Oh, back there. Sherry Jones. I saw her somewhere. Betty Poole. She's the chair of this particular project. Catherine Massey, here in the front. And Rita Roberts. Valerie Knoll is our city council liaison. She's way in the back. Just a little bit about our programs this year for those of you who haven't heard this before, probably. Last April, our 7th Community Litter Walk, under the instigation, direction, and love of Commissioner Carol Posby, was held to help promote local litter control. 28 groups and over 300 people participated. Unfortunately, Carol passed away in August, and we miss her already. But she passed away after a long illness, and to honor her and her work on the litter walk, we have named this project the Carol Posby Litter Walk. And hopefully next spring we'll have more than 300 people participating. This project was held in conjunction with the National Earth Day, Michigan Arbor Day, and the Keep Michigan Beautiful statewide cleanup programs. At the Hills Earth Day activity in Heritage Park, Commissioner Jen Chin was there to provide and promote our programs. We held our popular May, Spring, and September fall plant swaps in Heritage Park this past year. The city, for the 11th year, was designated a tree city by the National Arbor Day Foundation. In June, the Commission also sponsored again the annual flower planting at the Caustic Center here in their courtyard. We did this with the cooperation of Beachview School students who did the work. That was an undertaking, believe me. I've forgotten what grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd, whatever. young kids. We were trying to encourage planting, volunteering, and just general gardening. The Beautification Commission here is a member of the statewide organization Keep Michigan Beautiful Incorporated. We are also charter members of its District 1 Beautification Council of Southeastern Michigan, lovingly called the BCSEM. This particular group holds quarterly meetings around the Southeast Michigan area, and it is held so that member communities can learn about projects that other communities are doing for beautification. I was going to introduce two beautification board members, from that group, and I didn't see them come in. Jerry Stone, are you here? No. And James Keene had indicated they would join us tonight. Serving on this Beautification Commission is very fulfilling, and we welcome new members. Our meetings are held at City Hall on the third Tuesday of every month, mostly every month, at 6 p.m. So if you have an interest or would like to learn more, you can talk to one of the commission members here that were introduced, or you can come to a meeting. So moving along with the rest of our program, I would like to introduce our Assistant City Manager, Gary Meekjan, who will come forward. You have to introduce the mayor.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Very simply. Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Got caught a little flat-footed this evening, and City Manager Boyer extends his thanks and his gratitude to the committee and to all of those that participated in tonight's awards. And with that, and without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Ken Massey, to the podium to address the crowd as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And good evening, everyone. Great turnout. Wonderful to see you all here tonight. And it's my honor to welcome you to the 34th Annual Beautification Awards ceremony. We want to thank, and you've met them, Carol, great introduction to the members of the Beautification Commission. But we want to extend our thanks from governance to the Beautification Commission members, both past and present. You do a lot of important work in our community, and our community is definitely ranked as one of the best places to live in the state of Michigan. We had that honor for 2018, and one of the reasons is when you look around, this community is a beautiful community. The residents, the businesses take pride in our city, and that helps our quality of life. And the Beautification Commission members take that role on very seriously. For more than 34 years, the Beautification Commission has performed that important role, which is advising the city of Farmington Hills about beautification and about environmental concerns. And tonight, we are here to honor the efforts of those that have helped to make our community a much more beautiful one and a place that we all want to live in. Recognition this evening will go out to businesses, organizations, subdivisions, condo and apartment entrances, places of worship, and others. We also think that the winners tonight definitely are doing a great job. They have the beat. You'll see an asterisk in your program, and that denotes the continued excellence winners who have received an award for 10 years or more. We commend those winners who have made beautification of their property and of our community such a long-term and ongoing commitment. Tonight's guest speakers are Duncan and Maura Campbell on behalf of the Udolph Garden in Detroit, and they are here to speak about the new Udolph Garden project, a planned wetland garden that is currently a work in progress at Belle Isle in front of the Nancy Brown Peace Carillon. And our speakers will share the details about that project, which promises to create a perennial garden with a sculptural sense. So thank you all for being here this evening. Our sincere thanks go out again to our Beautification Commission members. And I don't know if you noticed it, but on the front slide there was a little bee on the logo, and I've noticed that they're also in the flower arrangements. So if you haven't noticed your little bee, it's there. With that, we'll turn it over to our speakers.
So I had a couple people ask me this evening. They saw Maura and Duncan Campbell, and it was, are they brother and sister? There are lots of Campbells. It's kind of like, the Jones of the Scottish. And we're married, and we've managed to stay married and actually still like each other after working on this project for several years now. So I'm going to start it off because I'm the one that instigated this, and then I dragged him in, and I'm very glad, and you'll be glad when you hear all the things he's helped us with that I did get him to help us. So it all began, you can't really read that, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a backdrop. So I was going into my presidency as the president for the Garden Club of Michigan. Now, the Garden Club of Michigan is one of two clubs in the state of Michigan that are members of the Garden Club of America. Garden Club of America, ladies, arguably is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, national conservation organization in the United States. It was founded by women. We have some male members, but it's typically mostly women still. And they were the powers behind lots of things, like saving the redwood forests in California, doing highway beautification. The mayor talked about the pollinators, the little bees. They've been leaders in native plants, pollination, you name it, they've done it. And so our garden club was one of the founders of the Garden Club of America. And in our early history, we did some pretty visionary things. But unfortunately, like a lot of things in Detroit, unfortunately, they're coming back, I called them leave no trace projects, right? Because we did them, and now there's no trace that we were ever there or the project was ever there. And that's true in a lot of ways about Detroit. You've got these fantastic things that are still there and here. We still have things coming on board, but there's so much opportunity too, right? And so when I was becoming president, I really wanted our members, looking back at our history, to think visionary. What could we do to really make a difference in Detroit? And we had a strong history on Belle Isle. So first I'd like to ask, how many of you have a memory from Belle Isle, some kind of history in your childhood? Look at this. It happens every single time. So what makes Belle Isle so compelling, first, almost no place else in the world has a Belle Isle. It's a nearly 1,000-acre park in the middle of the largest freshwater reservoir in the world. And you look at one side and you feel like you can touch Canada, and you look the other way and you feel like you can touch the U.S. It's pretty amazing. So we thought, let's do something special for Belle Isle. So just at the time, the city and the state were penning their agreement where the state was going to take over running the park, we come in and go, oh, we want to do a project on Belle Isle. So we knew it was going to be a little bit challenging, right? Because lots of transition, people were figuring things out. And as a club, we really wanted something that all of us could see ourselves in. And so, long story short, I really wanted people to think big. And if we could get anybody in the world to come and design a garden on Belle Isle that we would instigate, that we would help make possible, who would that be? And we got some great names. And one day my phone rang, and I answered it. It was Jean Hudson. And she goes, Maura, it's Jean. I said, oh, hi, Jean. How are you? She goes, I can't get it out of my head that the perfect person to come to Detroit at this time in its history is Pete Oldolf. And I said, could you spell that for me? And then she said, well, the designer who did the High Line in New York City, oh, he did that. The Lurie Garden in Chicago. And then she started naming. So basically, he is the rock star in the world for native perennial gardens and hybrids of perennial gardens. But he was really one of the movers and shakers of what a lot of people call the perennial movement around the world. And he's considered the best of the best. He's truly a master artist. So then we're like, okay, how do we get Pete Oldolf? And, it was one of those, well, I know someone who knows someone, and we just kept hitting, the proverbial brick wall. So finally, we, got together again and we said, we have his home address in the Netherlands. Why don't we just write him a letter and put enough postage on it so it gets there? And we did. And so I wrote the letter, and the first line is, "This is a love letter from Detroit." And we just poured our hearts out. Why? We really thought he'd be a great match, and we hoped he'd consider a commission here. And that was in early December of 2016. And then between Christmas and New Year's of 2016, he called Jean. He said, "Yes, I would be interested in doing and learning more about this garden that you're thinking about." And that's how we ended up getting Pete to come for his very first visit to Detroit. And if you want to, advance, and I'm going to explain a little bit. So we ended up being, we invited him to come. And of course, we had our eyes on Belle Isle. And so we very quickly decided, if you have the best in the world coming, that we would show him Belle Isle, but maybe we should show him some other things too, and he could tell us where he thought one of his gardens should go. We've worked with the Belle Isle Conservancy throughout this process on purpose because the Garden Club of Michigan is a 501c3, but we thought we were too small to take this whole thing on throughout it. And what we had told the DNR and others is if we got him to come, that we would take care of raising all the money and doing all the work, because there are not enough resources right now to do everything that needs to be done. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is Pete. He's in his studio in the Netherlands. That's his garden that you can see out of the window. If you go to the next slide. This is his home garden in Hummelo. He's known for gardens that are beautiful year-round. So he thinks three-dimensionally. He thinks not just in color, but in shape. He likes plant communities that work well together, and his gardens are interesting and welcoming year-round. So it doesn't matter what season it is. You can go to his gardens. He also says that a garden is a promise for the future. And so he's a really profound and very talented person. We feel very lucky to have been able to attract him. If you go to the next one. So one of the things that really attracted us, as many of you know, the original master plan for the design of Belle Isle Park was by Frederick Law Olmsted, who is also the designer of Central Park. And when we were looking, that's actually part of the design that Olmsted had done when he was envisioning Belle Isle. It was never fully implemented, but there are still, you can still see vestiges of what his vision was. And if you look at the curvilinear nature of the way Pete does his plants, each one of those little dots and circles are all representing different plants in one of his schemes or his plant designs. You'll see that they're very complementary. So we really view him as a modern-day Olmsted. And he's having the same kind of impact that Olmsted did. If you'll go to the next slide. So a love letter from Detroit has become a love affair with Detroit. And what I mean by that is Pete told me this summer, "Maura, when I'm being interviewed, I don't talk about any of my gardens except for Noma, which is the big restaurant in Denmark that he's redone all of the gardens for them, and Detroit." So he fell in love with the city. He loves everything about it. He loves that it's not finished yet. He loves that it has such a rich history. He loves that it's all these makers. He loves that we didn't show him, just the beautiful things. We showed him everything. So if we go to the next one, the garden site that Pete ended up picking. So we took him on, as I said, that tour of everything. And the second, he was here for 2 days, not even a full 2 days. The second day, he asked to go back to Belle Isle. And when you get to this road right here, in between the formal gardens and where the Nancy Brown Peace Carillon is, he said, "Stop the car." And we're like, okay. We had 2 cars. He got out. He's about 6'4", and he raised his hands and he goes, "Here is where my garden should go." And we all went, "Oh!" and trying to get it, on our phones. I mean, it was like one of those moments. And I'm going to turn it over to Duncan in just a minute, but it really did feel like you were at a historic moment. And really, it showed that he's so artistic and has such an eye for this. He's told people, and it's on your cards, that this is the most natural location for one of his public gardens, of any of his public gardens he's done, because this is just basically turf, green grass between the Remick bandshell, which needs love and restoration, broken up asphalt between the bandshell and the Peace Carillon, and then the conservatory. So it really is the blank slate or the hole in the middle of the cultural donut, and it's in the heart of the cultural part of the island. So it is a perfect location. And so now Duncan's going to let you know how we've come to where we are now, where we're actually going to be installing this garden.
So that gives you an orientation. Canada is on the top of your screen, and the U.S. is on the bottom of your screen. And so it's a natural location. The Carillon is a bell carillon. Bells were never installed in it originally. It was done in 1939, 1940, in honor of Nancy Brown, who is a columnist for the Detroit News, and it was one of the first crowdsources by kids putting together their pennies to be able to build this Art Deco, neo-Gothic structure in Indiana limestone. So this was his design. So he uses a curvilinear design juxtaposing clumps of plants in different structures and colors, etc., that give you a feeling. He also, after we did the site analysis, created these longitudinal, curvilinear walkways and beds that you would basically be immersed in these mounded beds as you walk through the garden. Who are our supporters? So this is not a small project. This is a $4.2 million project. This is $200,000 in design, $2 million in the ground and construction, and $2 million in the bank for the endowment. And our big benefactors on this project, the Wilson Foundation. By the way, there's an exhibition at the DIA, the Wilson Foundation Underwriting of Impressionism from Buffalo and Detroit together. Highly recommend it. The Hudson Weber Foundation, the Erb Foundation, the Knight Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the Davidson Foundation. We also have the ability to donate online by sponsoring plants for the site. So please come on, buy a few plants and sponsor them going forward. This gives you an idea of the coloristic nature of his plants in his garden: prairie, perennial, pastoral. But this was our problem. The Great Lakes are at the highest level that they've been since recording history, going back 100 years. The last high point was 1987. In 2011, we were talking about dredging all our harbors to be able to get our boats in and out. So this is what we were presented with on the 23rd of July. We had broken ground. Ceremonially, we did the groundbreaking with the shovels, the whole deal, on June 11th, but we couldn't do anything because the site was too soggy and too wet. And then we hit standing water. Next one, please. So this is the garden design as you look at it, and then the incursion of water, standing water, and on the top of that, the light blue is 0 to 6 inches of water. Then the dark blue is 6 to 8 inches of water and more. And so I was walking around with my thigh waders and a yardstick and a GPS, because I've got a mapping company, going through and testing things all the way through until I got over to the bottom left of your screen, which is the wetlands area, and fell up to my chest. And the dog was with me, and he was having a great time. Next one. So what did we have to do? We had to go back to the start. We had to completely redesign the garden to basically insulate it from high water in the future. And we're expecting, according to the Army Corps of Engineers, 6 inches higher water next year that I have heard, okay? And so if we had that kind of water this year, we're going to have more water next year. And how do we deal with that going forward? And depending on what you think about climate change, planning for high water is not a bad idea. And so what we basically did is we moved the garden away from the Carillon. We also raised it up 3 feet in the air, and filled it with more soil. And on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see our rain garden, which is taking water off of the street and bringing it down. And that was sponsored by the Erb Foundation. Thank you, Erb Foundation. We've put steps in and a slope on the bottom of it for basically a grassy 3-foot drop over a 10-foot area and moved it back 39 feet from the Carolyn itself. So this gives you an idea of the old design against the new design. The old design is in the red. You see how it encompassed the Carolyn. But when we looked at the water, and so we've moved it up and away from it to insulate it. So this is his design. He basically designs like an impressionist, using dabs of plants as pure color like an impressionist does. And then the juxtaposition of those pure colors as an impressionist would blend those colors, he is blending them together to create a great pastoral sense. So this is the brand new design. It just arrived this week from the Netherlands, etc. And we'll be incorporating this into the garden as we redesign it. What is basically our time frame? So we are starting to break ground next week. We will be doing fine grading in the summer. We have to accommodate the Grand Prix on Belle Isle, which is disruptive in regards to a garden, but they've worked with us very closely to help facilitate our logistics. In the summer of 2020, we're going to be doing planting. And then the idea is to do our soft opening in the fall of next year. So if you talk to me in June, I was going, when are we going to start? July, when are we going to start? We had to reposition it completely and start all over again, but we've done it and we're going to deliver on time. So Old Off Garden Detroit is an all-volunteer group. But what we say is we're volunteers, but we're not amateurs. And we've got business people, we've got horticulturists, we've got people with fundraising experience and PR and marketing and governmental relations, etc. But we basically created this group from the ground up, associated with this germination, the Garden Club of Michigan, then associated with the Belle Isle Conservancy as our 501c3 sponsor, and also the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan as our sponsor for our endowment. None of us are paid, and we raised basically $4.2 million in 14 months.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a great program. And it is. It's wonderful to see all the people here this evening. That means that Farmington Hills really is a beautiful place to be. So I wanted to start with a couple of housekeeping things. We will be presenting the awards by category. And so I'd like you to hold your applause until each category is finished. And after I do speak about your property, if you would please go to the tables to my right and pick up your packet. It doesn't cause any confusion, so don't be afraid that getting up and walking around is confusing. It's not. And if your packet happens to have a letter in it, a little 3x5 card, at the end of the program, you can pick up your sign at the reception desk. Thank you. I think we can get on with the program now. Offices. Let me put this down a little bit. Arboretum is at 12 Mile and West Farmington Road. Annuals and perennials make an attractive display at both entrances. The cannas are especially outstanding. Shrubs and trees make an interesting background for the beds. Brookfield One, Northwestern Highway, east of Middlebelt, a well-maintained setting with relaxing seating. Large hosta bordered by boulders, trimmed yews with bright red begonia add a punch of color. The panicle hydrangeas are eye-catching. Brookfield Two, Northwestern Highway, east of Middlebelt. Red cannas at the entrance are gorgeous. They're complemented by variegated hosta, daylily, red and white begonia, and impatiens. Brookfield Three, Middlebelt Road, north of Northwestern. Notice the petunias in all shades of purple that are ringed by massive rocks. Pink begonia, silver Dusty Miller highlight the entrance sign and walks. The doctors David M. Clark and Carolyn L. Romzick, 12 Mile east of Middlebelt. Red roses line the front of the building with a colorful planter at the entrance. On the side of the building, a garden that can be viewed by the patient rooms is filled with colorful annuals, perennials, and shrubs. Farmington Hills Corporate Center 1, Haggerty, south of 9 Mile. Red and white begonia circle the entrance sign. A line of spruce is complemented by hosta, daylily, and pink begonia. Grasses soften the building's foundation. Farmington Hills Corporate Center 2, Haggerty, south of 9 Mile. Pink begonia are used at the entrance sign of Building 2. The center median is filled with petunia, sedum, and daylily, very eye-catching. Friedman Real Estate, 12 Mile east of Drake. Large beds of annuals, perennials, grasses, and small trees provide areas of color. The black-eyed Susan are especially nice, and this is very well maintained. North Valley 2, northwestern, east of Middlebelt. Trees and boulders create a park-like setting at this site. Hosta, begonia, and impatiens add color. Red and white begonia line the entrance sign. Nottingham Associates, northwestern, west of Middlebelt. Tall trees provide height and interest, and annuals a pop of color, along with restful green spaces. Orchard Office Center, Orchard Lake, north of 12 Mile. Set back from the road, the beds at the entrance doors are filled with red and white begonia, yellow-leafed hosta that are edged in dark green. Shrubs with bright red berries add nice addition for winter interest. Ward Eagle, 14 Mile west of Middlebelt. Beds of begonia and hydrangea and shrubs run along the entranceway. Wide steps are bordered by mounds of red and white begonia. Ornamental trees are a nice background. Hydrangea planted along the foundation of the building catch the eye. Letters of commendation are awarded to North Valley 1 and Spectrum Office Center. Shopping centers. Hunter Square, Orchard Lake, and 14 Mile. Beds of roses, red and white begonias, daylily, and petunia are backed by boxwood. Ornamental trees outline the perimeter of the entire shopping center. The parking lot is dotted with islands of colorful annuals and grasses. Marketplace Specialty Center, Orchard Lake, south of 13 Mile. Roses, lily, and annuals surround each tree. Rocks outline the beds in this space that's right next to Orchard Lake Road. The parking lot is fronted with a row of neat boxwood. Ashley Arboretum, 12 Mile east of Drake. Concrete planters have been placed at the north and south entrances, with begonias shown here, but now filled with fall mums. Daylilies surround a weeping cherry in a large circular bed. Trimmed yew, burning bush, and trees give a park-like feeling to the landscape. McCabe Funeral Home, 12 Mile east of Orchard Lake. New beds have been added next to the public walk. Hydrangea, red roses along the front of the building are eye-catching. The drive has been repaved and planted with repaved and plantings with large stones create a border. A large maple is surrounded by a bed of hosta. At the sign are bright red begonia adding a burst of color. Roses, sedum, daylily, and hydrangea complete the landscape. And now I would like to, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the newly appointed Executive Director of the Greater Farmington Area Chamber of Commerce, Connor Osborne, to present the Chamber Award. Connor?
Thank you so much. Turn this up. So as she mentioned, my name is Connor Osborne. I am the new Executive Director for the Greater Farmington Area Chamber of Commerce, and every year we hand out an award on behalf of ourselves. This year we are presenting the award to Carol Rutz from Hunter Square.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you. I'm Betty Poole, a longtime commissioner member. I'm going to start with businesses. Amerisure Insurance. They're located on Halsted between 11 and 12 Mile Road. They have a neat, well-kept entryway. At their entrance, they've got raised gardens on each side of the entryway made by boulders and then filled with perennials. The red begonias give it the color. Botsford Commons, a Beaumont community, is located on 9 Mile east of Orchard Lake Road. They have several beautiful gardens around the entry with a variety of perennials and shrubs. Volunteers take care of this and do a really nice job. Café Cortina on 10 Mile between Orchard Lake and Middlebelt Road. They have a beautiful containers at their entry filled with all kinds of annuals, giving them lots of color. On the outside, in front of the restaurant, they have a dining area that is surrounded by trees and shrubs, making it very private and very pretty. Employees take care of all of this. Erhard BMW on Grand River between Halsted and Haggerty Roads. Even under construction, their perennial beds looked great. They made a good use of shrubs, grasses, perennials, and annuals, and the red begonias give it lots of color. Red begonias were very popular this year. They show up. Fabian, Sklar, King, and Liss Law Office at the corner of 12 Mile and Farmington Road. They have large planters by their front entry to give them color. They have a small garden on the outside of their parking lot and a larger perennial garden on the inside, and it softens all the hard surface. It's nicely taken care of. Halsted Place, located on Halsted, south of 13 Mile Road. They have a very pretty entrance with several types of plants, making it an interesting entryway 12 months of the year, and it's all nicely cared for. Illuminating Concepts on 10 Mile between Orchard Lake and Middlebelt Road. They have a garden entry, really. They have shrubs, perennials, and annuals wherever the sun hits, so not everywhere. They also have a beautiful urn that's filled with lots of beautiful annuals to give color, and the employees take care of this, and they do a very nice job. Land Rover and Jaguar on Grand River between Halsted and Haggerty. They used red begonias to surround their sign and filled it with some shrubs and perennials. They have a runway built up using boulders, and they've accented it with Black-Eyed Susan. Makes a very nice display area for their vehicles. Can't say cars anymore because there's just too many kinds of vehicles. McLean and Darnell. Apologize about that. Located on 12 Mile between Halsted and Haggerty. It's an old farmhouse that's been made into an office, and they've made an addition on the back that's added a railing where they can put planters on top of the railing and add some color, which they did. They also have a rock garden and trees and shrubs around the parking lot to keep it the country look. Montgomery, Weyburn, Waythorne, Burke, McKinder, Dye, CPA. They're located on Gill Road, corner of 8 Mile. They have limited space, so they filled it up with planters using colorful annuals at their entry, and they put some begonias down by their sign. Employees do all this, and they take real good care of it. Robert Bosch, LLC, they're located on Hills Tech Drive between Halsted and Haggerty. They have several planting areas using grasses and perennials. They also have a wildflower garden. The red begonias are so pretty that surround their solar panels. Employees take care of all this, and they do a great job. They've got a lot of gardens to take care of. Sellers Buick GMC. It's located on Grand River between Halsted and Haggerty. They have several gardens using annuals, perennials, and grasses. They have a raised display area enhanced by large stones and begonias. All the beds are nicely cared for. Letter of commendation for Tarnor Doors. I'm going to do places of worship. Narden Park United Methodist Church. It's on 11 Mile west of Middlebelt Road. They have a sun garden in front of their church sign and another raised circular bed on the side of the garden that has perennials in it. They also use some geraniums in areas to give it some color, and in their planter by their door. Volunteers do all of the planting and care for these. They do a great job. United Methodist Church on Farmington Road between 13 and 14. They have a wide assortment of plants used in the landscape. They also have a variety of shapes, colors, and textures. There's a fountain in the quiet area, and it's enclosed by shrubs and trees, making it very quiet. It takes care of the road noise. This garden is also pretty all year long, and volunteers take care of it very well. St. Fabian Catholic Church and School, located on 12 Mile between Orchard Lake and Farmington Road. They have a beautiful entry with several gardens. They have a nice assortment of shrubs, grasses, perennials, and annuals. This garden also looks good 12 months a year, and it's taken care of by volunteers. They do a great job. I'll congratulate them. Okay, this is for organizations. Beachview Swim and Tennis Club. It's located in the Kimberly subdivision at 11 Mile and Middlebelt Road. They have a large perennial garden in front of their sign and also going down the fence line. They use grasses and low-growing shrubs. They also have some vines growing on their fence. They have some annuals around for color. And volunteers plant and take care of all of this very nicely. A letter of commendation for Finlandia Gardens of the Finnish Center Association. And congratulate them. Apartment entrances. American House is located on Middlebelt Road between 10 and 11. The hydrangeas did well this year, didn't they? They're all over the place. They blend so well with their small specimen trees and shrubs, which softens the whole front of their building. They have flowers that show where the door for the entry is, and employees take care of this, do a good job. Carrington Place at Freedom and Drake Road. I don't know if these ladies are here, but I'm mentioning them. Patty, Mildred, Berlinda, and Mary Lynn. Good for you. I got 4 entries on this one garden, so I had to tell you. Okay, it's a circular garden. It's awesome with pink and white impatiens. There's Stella Doro also circling in back of the impatiens, and they've used the same color impatiens in planters by their front door. And volunteers and employees take care of this. Thank you. Kendallwood Apartments on 12 Mile west of Orchard Lake. The colorful annuals are what you see first. The farther back in the garden are some hostas and some evergreen shrubs. The flag is a nice touch. This looks very nice and nicely taken care of, and we can congratulate them. Thank you, and I would like to introduce Jennifer Chin. She will be handing out the Beautification Commissioner's Award.
I've been told I have to speak directly into this for the recording. I think we got it. I'm Jennifer Chin, the chair of the Beautification Commission, and I'm thrilled to be presenting the Beautification Commissioner's Award to a business that I had the opportunity to watch be transformed every day on my way to the office. At first, when I drove by, I wasn't sure what was happening because someone was out there digging up all the plants, and I thought, oh no. But it turns out it was part of a much larger plan. McCabe Funeral Home has been on a journey that began, unfortunately, with a fire in their building. But it ended up including not only building updates, but also a complete renovation of their landscaping. The result is a lovely, pleasantly ordered design with a relaxed, tranquil feel. If you drive down 12 Mile between Farmington and Orchard Lake Road, you can't miss the lush lawn and colorful plantings. The Commission would like to recognize their effort to continue making our city a beautiful place for people to live, work, and visit. I invite McCabe up to accept their award. Here you go.
Thank you
This is
very
for you.
much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy your garden. I go right by it every day, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Sandy
you so
really
much.
deserves the credit and the staff too, so thank you very much. No, we're good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next category is subdivision entrances. At Applewood on Halsted, north of 8 Mile, a well-kept boxwood hedge provides a lovely backdrop for large hosta, hydrangea, sedum, and splashes of red begonias. Mature trees and a stone entrance sign complete the design. Barrington Green on 12 Mile, west of Drake, is lush with flowering plants. Perennials include sedum, daylily, Russian sage, black-eyed Susan, coreopsis, and coneflowers. These are interspersed with annuals. Green and gold entrance sign is complemented by many shades of pink, red, and yellow in the foliage and blooms. Colony Park West 3 on Drake between 12 and 13 Mile roads features a brick entrance sign as the backdrop for begonia, sedum, dianthus, and daisies, tucked between large boulders. The mixed plantings at Dunbar Oaks on Drake south of 13 Mile are beautifully framed by a backdrop of evergreens, hydrangea, Joe Pyeweed, and tall grasses. The blend of colorful annuals and perennials, including begonia, black-eyed Susan, salvia, and tea roses, is quite eye-catching. Farmington Brook, off Haggerty north of 12 Mile, uses a unique carved boulder for an entrance sign. A very pleasant assortment of multicolored begonia, sedum, coneflower, black-eyed Susan, grasses, and shrubs completes the natural feel. At Farmington Ridge and Glens, a classic green and gold signs are featured at each of the multiple entrances. A mixture of trees, shrubs, perennials, annuals are in a rainbow of colors put together in a unique design at each entrance. One judge complimented the repeating of plant materials that tie them all together nicely. The 4 entrances of Farmington Square near 9 Mile and Halsted are beautifully maintained. Roses, black-eyed Susan, sedum, and begonia provide colorful blooms, while large hosta, ground cover, and cute little shrubs trimmed into orbs create ribbons of green that guide your eyes through the design. Green Hill Woods uses sculpted shrubs, evergreens, and brickwork as the bones of a colorful display of annuals. The purple salvia is a very nice touch, not used as often in the entrance displays, but you can see it really works well here. Halsted Hills on Halsted, north of 12 Mile, has some serious hydrangea happiness this summer. Variegated hosta, grasses, and small trees add depth to the park-like entrance, with pink and white begonias providing a punch of color. Holly Hills Farms, off Middlebelt south of 13 Mile, is a colorful display, including rudbeckia, daylily, petunia, red salvia, geranium, coneflower, sedum, holly, and periwinkle. Woo! Mature shrubs, ornamental grasses, and large hosta, plus a stone boulder complete the look. The beautiful entrance at Hunt Club on 11 Mile east of Halsted stands out well from the neatly maintained plantings. Red begonias and ornamental grasses, along with roses and shrubs, complete their design. Hunters Point Colony on 13 Mile between Drake and Halsted is a favorite for one of our judges who proclaimed it absolutely stunning. Featuring an elegant look, trimmed hedges surrounded by lush hydrangeas and variegated hosta, black-eyed Susan, and begonias are there for color. The entrance at Kings Point on 13 Mile between Drake and Farmington Roads is filled with flowering plants. Begonia, Black-eyed Susan, iris, sedum, coreopsis, daylily, Russian sage, and coneflower play together in an organized yet slightly wild display. Large areas of euonymus and Joe Pye weed extend around the back of the brick entrance sign. Longer entrance beds at Old Franklin Town near 13 Mile and Middle Belt allow for extended plantings that open with petunia and move to pachysandra, hydrangea, hosta, and many large bushes and trees. A pond with a working water wheel is edged by weeping willow, Russian sage, sedum, and hosta. At Rolling Oaks, the 5 entrances near Drake, 14 Mile, and Farmington Roads each contain the same type of planting material, but all unique in design and perfectly maintained. Visitors and residents are welcomed with daisy, begonia, impatiens, tea roses, coneflower, salvia, daylily, hydrangea, evergreens, Joe Pye weed, euonymus, pachysandra, and grasses. My goodness. They have 5 entrances. They've got a lot. Strathmore volunteers strive for plantings that they describe as artistic and meticulous. Our judges thought they did just that, with pink, white, and silver annuals in precise patterns, creating a look that was unique and beautiful. Perennials and hardscaping provide a backdrop to enhance the experience. When I'm doing my own judging, I often find myself writing park-like a lot on my judging sheet, much too often. But these next few subdivisions all deserve that description, so let's enjoy. Off Drake between 13 and 14 miles, Stratton Hill maintains a nicely designed and colorful entrance. A unique feature is the beds outlined using gravel and stone. Begonia, hosta, black-eyed Susan, sedum, daylily, and patience, salvia, and iris, plus large evergreens create that park-like feeling. Timber Creek on Orchard Lake Road, south of 11 Mile, is richly layered with evergreens and boulders. Tucked into the mix are Japanese maple, Irish sedum, tea roses, hosta, euonymus, and grasses. The golden shrubs are a standout feature in this oasis of an entrance. Timber Crest is unique in the use of red and white petunias to create a fresh feeling at their entrance on Middle Belt, south of 12 Mile. Trimmed bayberry and evergreens provide a pretty backdrop for their hostas, daylily, tea roses, and rudbeckia. I have to admit that Trillium off Drake between 11 and 12 Mile is always a favorite of our judges. It's composed of perfectly manicured boxwoods surrounding white hydrangea in the center islands and trimmed bushes along with pink begonias at the entrance. It's a classic look that never goes out of style. Wedgewood Commons opens with a symmetrical front bed filled with annuals, perennials, and small bushes backed by tall grasses. Following this are long planted medians, continuing to a lawn area with large hostas surrounding small maple trees and tall globe lights. You can find them on Farmington Road between 13 and 14 Mile roads. Woodland Trails on 13 Mile between Drake and Halsted uses their flowing landscape design to guide your eye right to their entrance sign. A delightful mix of annual and perennials lushly packed into a small area in front of the sign makes it hard to look away. Letters of commendation go to Green Hill Commons and 3 Oaks. Please give these gorgeous subdivisions a round of applause. Our final category is condominium entrances. Chestnut Ridge on Halsted between 12 and 13 Mile roads has a very colorful entrance planting design, enhancing an interesting stone entrance sign. Variegated New Guinea impatiens particularly stand out from the daylily, hydrangea, white impatiens, salvia, and red, white, and pink begonias. All the begonia colors. Copper Creek Community Associations includes several colorful entrance areas. Begonia, blue salvia, daylily, and boxwood were lovely together. And see the lime-colored plant in that photo? Our judges couldn't identify what the plant was, so we actually took a little sample and we brought it to our commission meeting so that we could all have a look at it and try to figure out what it is. So if someone wants to come tell us later, we'll see if we got it right. Essex Club off Halsted between 13 and 14 Mile roads is bright, colorful, and well-maintained. The magenta petunias are a lovely choice among the salvia, sedum, roses, and boxwood. At Halsted and 11 Mile, Fairways of Farmington Hills uses canna lily to make a bold statement. The vibrant, tropical-looking flowers are enhanced by salvia and magenta petunia. White begonias and hydrangea provide a cool contrast. Greenpoint at Copper Creek off 13 Mile between Haggerty and Halsted is well maintained and has a natural, relaxed feel. Multicolored begonias, salvia, black-eyed Susan, sedum, hydrangea, and lavender are some of the plants included here. Red begonia and silver dusty miller at the entrance of Hampshire House at 14 Mile west of Orchard Lake make a colorful initial impact. Mixed begonias and additional plantings add to the beauty. Near the office, hanging baskets of red and white geranium and purple petunia are a nice way to bring some height to their design. Meadow Ridge, off Middlebelt between 11 and 12 Mile roads, has had some pond and road projects that they needed to complete this summer. Through all of this, they took great care in maintaining their welcoming entrance, and it really showed. Begonia, salvia, coral bells, black-eyed Susan, daylily, and grasses are just some of their featured plants. Ramblewood has several entrances near 14 Mile Road. Several colors of begonia, coreopsis, salvia, grasses, and shrubs enhance the various entrance signs. The overall look is lush and abundant. Sierra Point at 13 Mile and Halsted is extremely colorful. The small bed encircling the entrance sign is packed with flowering plants. A larger side bed includes Shasta daisy, black-eyed Susans, begonia, dusty miller, and daylily. Overall, the effect is wonderful. We end our awards at the Meadows, 13 Mile west of Farmington Road. Red and white begonia, blue salvia, pink and white New Guinea impatiens, sedum and hydrangea wrap around sculpted evergreens and mature trees. Let's have a round of applause for the condominium associations and volunteers and landscapers. This concludes our presentation for the awards. I'm going to turn the mic over to Carol to close our evening. Thank you.
In closing our program, I'd like to give special thanks to the Planning and Community Development Program staff, most especially our city liaison, Charmaine, and her assistant, Jerry LaBelle. Also, thanks to the staff at the Special Service and Video Division for helping us with this ceremony, its preparation and presentation. We especially appreciate all the help from the Caustic Activities Center staff. I'll get it out yet. Thanks for all the beautiful plantings, and especially the multitude of red and white begonias. Keep up the great work, have a safe trip home, get a goodie, and those of you who have notes in your packets, head for the welcoming table.